program is brought to you in association with First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
The world is still at odds fighting with an unfamiliar enemy, the coronavirus. Months later, the pandemic's effects on the global economy continue to worsen, with economic growth forecasts revised every other month. While the world races to find a plausible cure or a vaccine, corporates all over the world are on a watchful eye on a ticking time bomb, the possibility of exiting the market, as many are facing financial hardships due to COVID-19. Even though it has been a horrible year for a lot of companies around the world, the fact of the matter is investors and shareholders are still looking for a return on their investment. They're expecting leadership to come up with strategies that will ensure a good fight that would see the ship steered to calmer waters in the next year and subsequent years to follow. At this point, what is the best course of action to follow? While many are ready to fold, there are human resource specialists who believe there are principles that corporate leaders can follow to ensure that they thrive even during a pandemic, and it is all through talent within the company. One of these specialists is President of the Talent Strategy Group, Marc Effron, from the United States of America, who joins us via Skype in New York City to talk about the 4 principles that can be followed to thrive into the next year.
First things first, Marc, you were giving a talk on IFTDO on Zoom on the CHRO's talent plan for recovery. Maybe you could just give us a little background into what that talk was about for our viewers who did not have the opportunity to join in on the Zoom talk.
Sure, I'd be happy to, and maybe just a brief introduction of how we help companies around the world, and that will frame up why I was discussing that particular topic. We work with large global companies to help them to radically simplify their human resource practices. And a lot of our work is focused on helping companies to really pay attention to what's most important. And so that article was a way of saying there's a lot of messiness in the world right now, and it's very easy for HR to get distracted and run off chasing rabbits when there's a very clear goal ahead of them. And the point is that investors especially, and your customers, while they understand that things are a mess right now, they still expect your company to produce a great product or service. And so how can we in the human resources profession help CHROs and others to focus on the few most important things? So that was really the genesis of that article, is to say, I know it's confusing, I know there's lots of noise around you, but what matters most right now? It's these few things.
So in that talk, you're going to be focusing on 4 principles, or 4 proven principles to thrive through talent next year. What are these principles that you're speaking of? And perhaps you could clarify what talent is with regards to this particular instance that we're discussing.
Let's start with that talent definition, because I think your point is a great one. People use that term in different ways. And for some companies, talent is high potential. My view is talent is everybody. It's another word for employees in many ways. It makes it sound fancier, but it's really just a word for employees. And the first point in that article was around one of the most solidly proven factors in all of human psychology, which is that goals matter. Goals help to focus attention, and bigger goals help to deliver more performance. And so what I really want people to start doing, especially right now when things are very confusing, is what are the 3 big things that you're trying to achieve? And even in the best of times, companies and individuals have a challenge with that. They have a list of 20 to-do items, or they have a lot of activities. But what they aren't thinking through is, what are the few big promises that I'm making to my organization this year? And that may sound like a cute word trick. It's not intended to be. Promise instead of goal. We all have goals, and we try to achieve our goals, and we do our best. But how many times do we make a promise to someone and not try very, very hard to keep that promise? And so what I want to hear, if Pinot Shigo is my employee, what are the 3 big promises you're making for what you're going to do for the company this year? Because that likely will elevate the quality of the goals, it will likely elevate the stretch of the goals, and will likely elevate your commitment to the goals. Because it's not just, well, Mark, I'll try and get this done, let's see what happens. It's, you made a promise to the company, and that should be a big deal. So that's the first point.
So that is the first point. Maybe we could get to the second, third, and the fourth.
The second point is around filling your most critical roles with 80th percentile talent. Now, they may, that, or 90th percentile talent, let's raise the bar, 90th percentile talent. That may sound really challenging. Oh, that's, the global economy is a mess, and how do I find people? The starting point here is to ask yourself, which roles matter the absolute most to our company either recovering and staying strong into 2021, or some companies actually haven't been that affected, which is strange, but we found a lot of companies haven't been that affected by this global mess. Even for them, what are the few big things that will help them to sustain that high performance going into 2021? And so understanding which are the roles that matter most and how can you ensure that the best talent is in those roles is an absolutely key factor. And some of the questions that you'll want to ask yourself in your organization are, do we know which roles contribute most to whatever our most important metric is? Is that revenue? Is that customer satisfaction? Whatever the most key metric or 2 or 3 key metrics are, do you understand which roles have the most influence? And that doesn't necessarily mean it's the CEO, CFO. In fact, oftentimes those aren't the most important roles. You might find someone who's buried 3 levels deep in customer service is the most critical role, if they are the pivotal influencer of your customers. So understand which roles really add the most value, and then ask yourself the tough question, not simply, do I have our best talent in those roles, but do I have the best talent in those roles? And that again helps to raise the bar to say, oh yeah, Mark's one of our best. We have him in that role. Well, if I went to other companies, would Mark be at the 50th percentile? Would he be at the 90th percentile, the 20th percentile? Do I really understand, is Mark the best talent I could have? So that second point is a critical one and the challenging one, but it's really essential that we understand which roles add the most value in our organization and make those tough calls. It doesn't mean you have to fire the person who's in that role right now if they aren't 80th percentile. Maybe there's another opportunity for them in the organization. But especially if your company is trying to recover going into 2021, you want to have the absolute highest level of confidence that you have the right people in the most critical roles who are going to drive that performance going forward.
When running a business means
Where did I put that receipt?
we can help you with instant accounting, free software that does your bookkeeping for you. When running a business means
Wait, what do you mean the container hasn't arrived?
we help protect your business from risk with Mohwebi Insurance. And when it means
How do we pay our staff that don't have bank accounts?
we help you make multiple payments directly to people's phones with e-wallet bulk send. At FNB, we're constantly innovating to help business owners at every stage of their journey.
Welcome back to First Issues, and thank you so much for staying with us. We pick up our conversation with Talent Strategy Group CEO Marc Effron with the last 2 proven principles to ensure your company thrives through talent next year.
We spoke of only 2 principles that were your focus point. Let us finish up on the last 2 and then we get to our last question.
Third principle, identify your performance differentiating behavior. So what does this mean? I think in most organizations, they understand there's going to be a mix of what you do and how you do it. But in a lot of organizations, the how is defined as what I would call good citizen behaviors. Good citizen behaviors meaning I'm hardworking, I'm ethical, I get along well with my peers. Important behaviors, but not necessarily behaviors that elevate my performance. I mean, do I perform better if I'm really ethical versus kind of ethical? I mean, these should be baselines, not differentiators. So what I really want to understand from my clients' companies is, given the challenges that you have this year and going into 2021, which 3 behaviors matter most? If you saw everyone in your company demonstrating these 3 behaviors, would you be more confident about the success of that company going forward? Identify those and then hold people accountable for that going forward. So what that says is, I'm confident now that if I give people direction on behaviors or coaching on behaviors against these 3 or 4, that I really believe will have better financial results in the end, and then hardwire those into how you evaluate people. So at the end of the year, as opposed to evaluating people on those good citizen behaviors, assume they should be demonstrating that. There's no negotiation on that. You need to demonstrate the good citizen, but differentiate them based on how well they performed those select few behaviors.
And then our last principle maybe at this point?
That last principle is around making leaders actively manage performance. And this may sound at first like it's micromanagement. That's not the intention. The intention here is to say, especially companies who are trying to recover and thrive, if you give people these big goals, you've told them about the behaviors that matter most, you have the best talent in the best roles. If you're a people manager, you need to be actively managing people, meaning it's not you check in with them once a month and see how things are going. It might be every week. Hey, how are we doing? What questions do you have? How can I best support you? Think of it as the managerial cycle time just speeding up. Because some people are very active managers, they probably don't need to change a thing. Some people are a little more laissez-faire, or maybe they're more introverted and they don't actively manage as well. Especially right now when we need to make sure that everyone is exquisitely focused on the right goals and the right behaviors. If you're my manager, checking in with me once a week. Hey, how are things going? I heard good things about Project A. What are your thoughts on that? It doesn't need to feel like you're the taskmaster, knocking on my door, where's that project? But more of a concerned and interested, and hey, we're all in this together, pushing for a strong 2020. So that type of spirit, but a much faster cycle time.